There's 10,000 whites coming to kill me. And in those 10,000, let's say here's 10,000 rattlesnakes coming to bite me. And in those 10,000, there was 1,000 that didn't mean no harm. And I knew there was a good 1,000 snakes out there, but they all look alike. Now, what should I do? Should I keep the door open and let the 10,000 in, hoping that the 1,000 will unite and save me and one bite or kill me? Or should I just be safe and shut the door? So we have white people say, I mean right. I have a black husband. All my children are black. I love everybody. I really believe you. But I'm sorry, man, there's 10 more thousand behind you that don't feel that way. I'm just sorry, but what am I going to do?
This is why I strongly believe in the need of complete segregation and separation between blacks and whites, politically, socially, mentally. We cannot allow these people. I want us to understand, when he says that the majority of white people are the bad white people who are trying to harm black people, let's be clear. They talk about King as if he was this national hero, but this is how they felt about King when King was alive. America sees Martin Luther King Jr. as a hero now, but that wasn't the case during his lifetime. Martin Luther King Jr. was a civil rights leader and an American hero. Almost every American adult, 95% in CBS News polling, believes he was an important figure in the U.S., but it wasn't always that way. The fact that King is now beloved and was a national holiday commemorating his birthday wasn't something that obviously was going to happen during his lifetime. This shows us that often the fight for civil rights is unpopular at the time, and it only becomes popular in retrospective. Meaning white people have always continuously been on the wrong side of history. They have always had a lower level of humanity than black people, and we have constantly voiced the need for humanity in them, and they have constantly rejected it. During the 1960s, King was America, who gave him a 5 rating on a scale of 5 being least favorable and a +5 being the most favorable. So when King was alive, America gave him a -5 rating, being he was the least favorable person in America. King's highly negative rating came when he had turned his attention from Southern desegregation towards de facto segregation in northern cities. But even before then, King was far from a universally liked person. In the middle of 1964, when Congress was in the midst of passing many landmark civil rights laws, King's favorable ratings was just 44%. His unfavorable rating was basically equal at 38%. When Americans were asked which 3 Americans they had the least respect for in a 1964 Gallup poll, King came in second at 42. This was barely less than the 47 registered by George. Right here, boss? Okay. Registered by George Wallace, the segregation governor of Alabama. Only 17% mentioned King's name when asked which 3 Americans they had the most respect for. Perhaps even more revealing is that a lot of white Americans thought King was doing more harm than good for the fight for civil rights in 1968. Harrison polls 50% of white Americans indicated that he was hurting the civil rights effort. A mere 36% said he was hoping King favorable ratings among them was 27% in 1966. What white people saying to black people is, allow us to do to you what we choose to do, and you should suffer in silence. This is how white people feel. This is what they were saying about King. He was hurting the civil rights movement because they want black people to suffer in silence, and that is what black people have done as of today. We have continued to suffer our Jim Crow in silence. Even in the imminent aftermath of death, many Americans had a negative view of King, nearly a third. 31% said he brought his 1968 assassination upon himself, less than a majority. 43% said they were sad or angry. 5% by the mid-70s view towards King became more positive. Hindsight. But white people do not have the morality to recognize the injustice and the suffering that they are implementing upon black people. You have to be clear about that. They do not have that as a collective. They do not have the morality to understand the evilness of Trump when he came out with the birtherism movement, targeting Obama by race. They don't understand the inhumanity in their actions. They have a lower level of humanity. This is why you have to understand, black people, all spiritual beliefs and religions come from us, because they don't have that within them. Good white people is a myth. There is no one coming to save black people. Black people have to wake up, unify, and build strength within themselves. Blacks do not have a political party, Democrat or Republican. Joe Biden is an example that the good white people is only a myth. Blacks overwhelmingly supported the Joe Biden for president, 96%. But the truth is, Joe Biden was at the core of the crime bill, which destroyed black families throughout America.
It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter, or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons.
What Joe Biden has just said as president, the current president, when he was campaigning for the crime bill, he said your black people's social injustice, the economic discriminations that they face that place them in those conditions of poverty doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that America is not giving them the opportunity to progress. We want them to starve and suffer in silence or incarcerate them. This is what the current president of America had campaigned for when he was pushing for the crime bill. Joe Biden is a bigot. We have to be clear about who we are supporting. Trump is a bigot. Biden is a bigot. Clinton was a bigot. All of them was racist. All of them enforced racist policies that harmed the black community, and now we are supporting these very same people. Black people do not have a political party. The Republican Party is not an option, and neither are the Democrats, especially when you're talking about on the presidential level. Take control of your politics on a local level first, before you begin to focus on who is president. I'm suggesting that blacks sit this one out and not vote for Biden. I cannot say that we should support a racist, a person who has created a greater, who have increased the complexity and compounded the discrimination that we face as black people in America. I could not say support him by no means necessary. This is from a white guy who black people overwhelmingly support and presents himself as black people's savior. It's because Joe Biden got in office majority based off black support, but he did not pass a bill securing your voting rights. He's going to run his next campaign telling you that he will secure your voting rights, but he did not do it then. Now, this is something black people have to stop doing. Stop falling for these promises. You judge a tree by the fruit that it bears. You say an apple tree is an apple tree because it produces apple. Orange trees produces oranges. Joe Biden has produced racist policies throughout his entire time in office.
Presidential candidates Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are rehashing a decades-old debate about busing as a means to integrate public schools. It started with a back and forth between the former vice president and the California senator during the first 2020 Democratic primary debate. Harris went after Biden for his record on busing during his time serving as a senator in the 1970s.
Do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America?
No,
do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well, there was a failure.
He deposed busing demanded by the Department of Education because you had discriminated and prevented blacks from going to those schools. And the reason why blacks wanted to go to those schools is because you underfunded the black schools and their children had no ability to learn in those schools. So what you did is you was opposed to black people having the ability to learn. Let's be clear about what he was. And let's understand that she know that he is a racist. But for power, she conceded, right? And betrayed her own people. This is why she's having a hard time as vice president. See, when he was vice president, because he's a racist like the rest of the racists, what Obama used to do is Obama used to send him down to talk to the Senate because he's another white guy. They don't want to talk to her. See, so that same dynamic doesn't work. Black president, white vice president, white president, black vice president, it doesn't work. Because they have a hatred in their heart for us. And the reason why he say repeatedly Republicans are some of his best friends is because he shared their ideology. Look at his voting history. It is aligned with those same Republican views. Look at his mentality when he created the crime bill. Look at what he was saying. He understood the discrimination and the things that Black America had faced, but he said instead of them correcting that and paying us for that and allowing us to be in a better position to build our community, he wanted to continue to destroy our community. How can we support him? I'm not saying don't vote. I'm saying don't vote for him as president. We need to at least demand he be primaried.
Black people saved your political life in the primaries this year. They have things they want from you, and one of them is a black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple black women being considered. Multiple.
Come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
The comment.
This is what he means when he says there's no such thing as the good white people. This is what we mean by the myth of the good white people. The white person you're looking for to save you is the very same white people who created your condition. Black people do not have a political party when it comes to the presidential level. Each president that we have promoted has went against black people interests. This was Biden as the Senate. His viewpoints has not changed. Biden has always been a biggie, and it still is a biggie. This is why he always feels he can get along with the racist Republicans.
As I have throughout my career, I'm going to continue to work across the aisle to deliver for the American people. And it's not always easy, but we did it the first term. Now, I'll be surprised a lot of people, but we signed over 210 bipartisan laws since I've become president, and we're revitalizing American manufacturing, gun safety, we did it together, and dozens of laws positively impacting on our veterans. And let me say this, regardless of what the final tally of these elections show, and there's still some counting going on, I'm prepared to work with my Republican colleagues. The American people have made clear
he prepared to work with his Republicans as he always has and he compromises black people. Be clear about what's happening. When you talk about manufacturing jobs that have been created in America, look in the inner cities of America and you tell me where those manufacturing jobs are. I ask you, tell me where they're building factories or creating jobs in your community, black people, since Biden been in office. I guarantee most black people who have a decent paying factory job have a commute outside of their community. This is a fact. This is a fact. This is why he will continue to work with the Republicans, because he will continue to compromise and sell out black people.